The roar of motorcycles breaks the calm of a quiet highway as a group of bikers circles a lone truck parked at a rest stop. Inside, a young woman, the truck driver's daughter, sits nervously, clutching her phone. What started as a routine stop has taken a menacing turn, and the bikers' taunts grow louder. They think they found an easy target, unaware of the storm they're about to unleash. Her father, a seasoned truck driver with years on the road, isn't just any man. He has a past, a dangerous one, that he's kept hidden from most, even his daughter. But today, that past is about to resurface in ways no one could expect. As tensions rise and the bikers push their luck, they have no idea who they're really dealing with. What happens next will leave you speechless. Stay tuned. The bikers laughed as they leaned against the truck, revving their engines and throwing out mocking remarks. Inside, the young woman's heart pounded. She had always known her father was strong and fiercely protective, but he'd never been one for stories about his past. Now, as she peeked through the curtains, she couldn't help but wonder if he'd ever faced something like this before. Her father, meanwhile, stood a few feet away, calm but watchful. He had a way of reading people, a skill honed from years of navigating long hauls and dicey situations on the road. His eyes swept over the group, assessing their movements and intentions. They thought they had the upper hand, but they didn't know what lay behind his quiet demeanor. The air felt heavy, charged with unspoken tension. The daughter held her breath as her father took one step forward, his voice low but steady. Enough. The bikers turned toward the father, their smirks widening. One of them, clearly the leader, stepped forward, his leather jacket creaking as he adjusted it. "And what are you going to do about it, old man?" he sneered. The others laughed, their confidence feeding off each other. The father didn't flinch. His daughter watched from the truck, her fear mingling with confusion. Who was this man, so unshaken in the face of danger? She had grown up admiring his quiet strength, but this was different. There was something in his posture, in the way he stood, that hinted at a side of him she had never seen. One of the bikers reached for the truck door handle, and the father's voice cut through the noise like a knife. "Don't touch it." His tone was cold, almost too calm, and for a moment, even the bikers hesitated. But the leader wasn't ready to back down. "Or what?" he challenged. The father took another step forward, his gaze locking on the leaders. Beneath the surface, a storm was brewing, but he didn't let it show. He had spent years burying the life he once lived, but now it seemed that life was coming back, whether he wanted it to or not. The air felt electric as the standoff deepened. The bikers, emboldened by their numbers, closed in, forming a loose circle around the father. The leader smirked, his confidence unwavering. "You've got guts, I'll give you that," he said, cracking his knuckles. "But guts won't get you far today." Inside the truck, the daughter's hands trembled as she dialed for help, but the call wouldn't connect. Panic surged through her as she glanced out the window, her father still standing firm, unmoving. He wasn't just holding his ground. He was studying them, as if memorizing every move they made. The leader gestured to one of the others, who revved his bike and lurched forward, the tires spitting gravel. But before the bike got close, the father shifted, his movements fluid and precise. With a single motion, he grabbed a heavy chain from the back of the truck, holding it with a familiarity that spoke volumes. The bikers paused, their laughter fading into uneasy murmurs. The leader narrowed his eyes, sensing something he hadn't anticipated. The father wasn't afraid, and that more than anything made the group hesitate. "You don't want to do this," the father said, his voice steady but charged with warning. The tension hung thick in the air, each second dragging like an eternity. For the first time, the bikers seemed unsure of their next move, But the leader wasn't about to lose face. He stepped forward, ready to test. And then, with a low growl, the father spoke again. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." The leader stopped in his tracks, his smirk faltering for the first time. Something about the father's words cut through the bravado, sending a ripple of doubt through the group. "Who exactly are you?" the leader asked, trying to mask his unease with a mocking tone. The father didn't answer right away. Instead, he glanced at the others, his eyes lingering on each one, as if weighing their intentions. Then he took a step closer, the chain still slack in his hands. "Let's just say I've dealt with worse than you on roads much lonelier than this," he said, his voice calm but heavy with implication.
Before the leader could respond, the growl of another engine broke through the tense silence. A sleek black motorcycle pulled up, its rider clad in a worn leather jacket and a helmet that reflected the setting sun. The newcomer parked at a distance, silently observing the scene. The bikers exchanged uncertain glances. "You know him?" one of them muttered. The leader's jaw tightened, frustration giving way to confusion. "No," he said, his voice quieter now. The father's eyes flickered toward the new rider, his expression unreadable. "You shouldn't have come," he muttered under his breath, too low for anyone else to hear. His grip on the chain tightened. The rider dismounted, removing the helmet to reveal a face etched with experience and resolve. "Couldn't let you handle this alone," the stranger said, stepping forward. "Not after everything we've been through." The father's daughter, watching from the truck, was frozen in shock. Who was this person, and how did they know her father? The bikers, now visibly unsettled, began to shift uneasily, sensing the balance of power tilting in ways they couldn't predict. The leader, trying to regain control, barked, "I don't care who either of you are. You're outnumbered." But even as he spoke, doubt crept into his voice. This was no ordinary truck driver, and now he wasn't alone. The leader clenched his fists, his frustration turning to anger. "Enough of this," he shouted, signaling his crew to move in. The bikers revved their engines and took a few steps forward, their bravado rekindling as they prepared to intimidate. But just as they made their move, the newcomer whistled sharply, a signal. Out of nowhere, headlights pierced the dusk. Several vehicles rolled up, a mix of rugged trucks and motorcycles, their engines rumbling like thunder. Men and women stepped out, their faces hard and focused. These weren't random passers-by. They were part of a network, a group that the father and the stranger clearly knew well. The bikers froze, their confidence evaporating as they realized they were surrounded. The father took a step forward, his voice steady and commanding. "I tried to warn you," he said, looking directly at the leader. "You think you own the road, but you're about to learn what real experience looks like." The leader glanced around, his arrogance replaced with desperation. "What is this? Who are you?" he stammered. The father exchanged a look with the newcomer. "Let's just say we've spent a lifetime ensuring people like you don't go unchecked." The father replied, his words carrying a weight that made the bikers step back. The bikers, now clearly outmatched, began retreating, but just as it seemed the confrontation was over, the father turned to the stranger. "Why now?" he asked quietly. "Why reveal everything after all this time?" The stranger hesitated, then handed the father a small envelope. "It's not just about them. It's bigger than that. They were bait." The father's face darkened as he opened the envelope. Inside was a photo of his daughter and a note that read, "We're watching." As the bikers sped off, the father realized the fight wasn't over. Someone else was pulling the strings, and this was only the beginning. The daughter, watching from the truck, couldn't hear their exchange, but saw the look in her father's eyes, one she'd never seen before, a mix of fear and determination. The road ahead was about to get even more dangerous. The father folded the note and slipped it into his pocket, his mind racing. He turned back to his daughter, who was now stepping cautiously out of the truck. Her eyes searched his face, looking for reassurance. "Dad, what's going on?" she asked, her voice shaky. He walked over and placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "Nothing you need to worry about right now," he said softly, though his mind was already planning their next move. The stranger approached, offering a brief nod before mounting his bike again. "You'll need to stay sharp," he said. "This isn't over." The father watched as the newcomer rode off into the distance, the roar of the engine fading into the night. For now, the immediate danger had passed, but the lingering threat was clear. As he and his daughter climbed back into the truck, she finally asked, "Will you tell me the truth someday?" He started the engine and gave her a faint smile. "Someday," he said. But for now, the road stretched out ahead, and he knew they'd have to keep moving. Whatever was coming, they would face it together.